I was supervised when conducting all explosions. Do not do these explosions by yourself. This is 30 grains of gunpowder. This is a trail of gunpowder leading away from a pile of 30 grains of gunpowder. And this is the whole thing being set ablaze. Now I bet you are all wondering why this gunpowder isn't exploding when this video is about why do things explode. And the answer is simply this. Gunpowder will only explode in an area where a lot of pressure can be built up. That's because the combustion of gunpowder produces a lot of carbon dioxide and nitrogen gas. And when these gases are released into an area where they cannot escape, they build up a lot of pressure and an explosion occurs as a result. So that's enough about what gunpowder is and what it does. Let's get into the main experiment for today's video. So for today's experiment, we are going to be experimenting with 3 different payloads of gunpowder and a percussion pistol, 30 grains of gunpowder, 20 grains of gunpowder, and 10 grains of gunpowder. So you're going to see multiple different clips. One of them is going to be me shooting the gun with 30 grains of gunpowder loaded into it and launching a can off of the barrel. Then another clip will be that exact same procedure, but the gun will be loaded with 20 grains of gunpowder instead. And then another clip will be the same procedure again, but the gun will be loaded with 10 grains of gunpowder instead. So yeah, let's get to it. But before we can shoot the percussion black powder pistol, let's learn about it. So a little bit about how percussion pistols work. When you pull the trigger on a percussion pistol, it releases a hammer, which then strikes the percussion cap against the nipple, which the nipple then serves as an anvil. This thing crushes the cap and detonates the mercury fulminate inside. This releases sparks that travel through the hollow nipple into the barrel where it ignites the main powder charge, which is made out of gunpowder, and that ignition causes an explosion that sends the round flying out of the barrel. After that explanation, let me show you a visual demonstration on how to load a percussion black powder pistol. And after that explanation and demonstration on how do percussion black powder pistols work, I, without further ado, present the footage from my experiments on the topic, how do things explode? Ready? In conclusion, the 30 grains of gunpowder fired the can the farthest, followed by the 20 grains of gunpowder, and then followed by the 10 grains of gunpowder. This was expected. Also, when I was doing my pre-experiment research, I found out that a lot of explosions that we see in the world today are the result of pressure buildup in an area. We see this with gunpowder, as when it combusts, it produces a lot of CO2 and nitrogen gas, which then builds up in the area, and if it's like in a gun barrel, it will force out the projectile as it makes its attempt to escape. When this happens, an explosion happens. Now let's experiment with something that has a little bit of a bigger boom. How about mortar fireworks? But before we go out and experiment with these dangerous explosives, Let's learn about them first so we can stay safe while we work. So a little bit about mortars. So mortars are launched whenever the main fuse is lit. This main fuse burns until it ignites a lift charge, which is made out of gunpowder. This lift charge then explodes, releasing a lot of carbon dioxide and nitrogen gas into the tube, which presses vigorously against the sides of the launch tube. And then that will create a lot of pressure, which sends the mortar shell high into the air, around 1,000 feet into the air. And as the mortar shell is launched, simultaneously, the time delay fuse is lit and starts to burn. This fuse will burn until it ignites a burst charge, which then explodes. The burst charge is also made out of gunpowder. It will explode and expand the pyrotechnic pellets, which are made out of a mixture of iron and potassium perchlorate, which is KCiO4. These pellets will ignite, making them glow, and they will spread out, and while keeping the map pattern that the manufacturer put them in whenever that firework was manufactured. Explosions show God's organization of the universe because each explosion is intricately created to produce a set amount of energy. Not all explosions will be very big, and not all explosions will be very small. God's organization allowed them to be unique and very fun to experiment with. His organization also created all the elements needed for each explosion, along with their very specific chemical combinations that must be followed to make the elements explode. God is truly creative and organized.
Oh! It worked!